Hello, future healthcare providers. Welcome to March's presentation. We have three special guests here for you today. And before we start, I just want to give you a quick reminder that we're going to take questions at the end of this session. So if during the course of the presentation you have any questions, please go ahead and click in the upper left-hand corner, the little question mark box, and then type it into the chat so that way we have it ready for when we get to our Q&A. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Darlene give introductions for everybody.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today for another installment of our Future Healthcare Providers Program. This is going to be a wonderful night. We are talking about technology in healthcare. And again, we have three panelists. And it might be a little bit easier if our panelists introduce themselves. So what I'll do is I will just say their names and panelists, if you would please, if you will say your full name, your titles, the number of years that you've been in the field, and how long you've been at Mary Washington. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of collectively, if you would just take just a couple of moments and tell us just a little bit about your department. Okay, and I know that's a lot of things. If I have to repeat it, it's fine. But I'm actually going to start with you, Dr. Slick. Can you please introduce yourself for our audience?
Sure can. Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Greg Slick, and I'm the Director of Robotic Surgery at Mary Washington Hospital. I've been in practice for 17 years, and all of those years have been here at Mary Washington Hospital. And as part of being director of the robotic surgery program, I help develop and coordinate the use of robotic technology amongst all the different types of surgical subspecialties, and also help coordinate the team of nurses and technicians who help to maintain the robot as part of this program. I was drawn to robotic surgery after being a regular surgeon or traditional surgeon for several years. But yeah, I was drawn to this cutting edge technology and the ability to allow me to perform very complex surgeries in a very minimally invasive way. And that really brought a lot of benefit to my patients. And I think a lot of the nurses and team members who are part of the robotics program see the benefit that it brings to the patients and are excited to be on the cutting edge of this type of healthcare.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Okay, and now, Rachel, will you please introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Rachel Overbay. I'm the Technology Services Manager, which is in the IS department. So my team is Tier 1 and Tier 2 support, but the department for IS is split into applications and technical operations. So I'm on the technical operations side, which is includes network, system administration, information security operations, and then technology services and project management.
That's fine. Okay. Okay. How long have you been in the field, Rachel?
I've been in the field for 18 years.
Okay. All right. And then my last question, I didn't hear you. Say that again.
I was going to say, I've been in the IT field for 18 years, but I've been with Mary Washington for a little over 2 years.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And then Ethel, please introduce yourself. You're on mute.
Great. How about that?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Ethel Ellis. I am the principal trainer for ClinDoc for Stork, and I am an RN, been an RN for 14 years, and I have been with Mary Washington for 4 years, and in the role as the principal trainer for Epic, ClinDoc, and Stork.
Okay. All right. I appreciate that. Okay, so to really get us started, I thought it would be great if we kind of set the tone with a video. So we're going to go ahead and have a video so we can understand a little bit more about robotic surgery. So Katie, if you would you go ahead and cue that up for us and let's learn about robotic surgery.
It's not very often that a a platform or a tool that comes out that will completely revolutionize the way you practice medicine. But I think that's happened to some degree in robotic surgery. We recently celebrated our 10th anniversary and purchased a brand new Da Vinci Xi platform. It was designed to add another layer of utility to laparoscopic surgery. Laparoscopic surgery had some limitations, primarily because the camera of laparoscopic surgery is only two-dimensional. There's no 3D image for laparoscopic surgery, and the instruments are straight and generally don't have any wrists or joints in them. And robotic surgery allows the surgeon to use instruments that have a greater degree of flexibility, more articulation, and there's a computer interface that provides a 3D image inside the body. At the beginning of the procedure, before the patient even gets in the room, the robot is prepared and draped and prepared with all the sterile instruments that are going to be used during surgery. The robot is brought into position, and through one of the cannulas, which are inserted into the abdomen, the robot is docked. The surgeon will then assume control of the robot away from the surgical field. They'll actually break scrub, which means they'll take off their sterile gown and go over to the robotic console, which is on the other side of the room, connected by a fiber optic cable. And there, the surgeon will use his or her hands to perform gestures inside the robotics console, and the robot will mimic those gestures on the inside of the patient. It's pretty cool. For some procedures that are very difficult to perform laparoscopically, the only other option is open surgery. And when you compare a robotic procedure to an open surgery, the incisions are a lot smaller. There's generally a lot less blood loss, particularly with robotic surgery. The hospital stay after the procedure is almost cut in half. Less postoperative pain, quicker return to regular activities because of less pain, and less usage of narcotic medications, which is what we're all striving to achieve nowadays because of the opioid epidemic. Having it here in Fredericksburg saves patients the burden of having to travel, an hour or more to find a location that has the Xi platform. I think that's important to the community here, knowing that Mary Washington Healthcare has made an investment to try and provide services here that are the most up to date, providing patients with that opportunity to have their care here in Fredericksburg with the physicians that have cared for them for years and their family that are there to support them, and that makes a big difference. Having the opportunity to be part of the sort of advancement of surgical techniques is a privilege, and it's great to see patients benefit from that. So that makes for happy patients, and it's rewarding for the surgeons who are participating in the care.
That is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. And I'll tell you, just looking behind you, I don't know, some of that looks slightly familiar. So, Dr. Slick, I'll tell you, Jasmine from the Career Development Team is going to be asking you questions and to get to know a little bit more about the field and your background then. But if there's anything else that you want to share considering where you're sitting, please do. So, Jasmine, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you so you can ask your questions of Dr. Slick.
I think you might be on mute, Jasmine. Yes. Well, I knew ever since I was a little kid that I wanted to be in medicine to some degree. And being a surgeon fit well with my personality and my skills. I like to fix things, and I'm good with my hands, and I'm a good problem solver. So that's how I ended up in surgery. But I've always been interested in technology and a little bit of a nerd. So I found that technology and robotics really was a great fit with robotic surgery. And I just was naturally drawn to that. I do actually spend some of my time helping out with some of the other technology related projects in the hospital with Epic, our computer system. And so I'm kind of hardwired for this kind of thing. So I would say that folks who find that they're inclined or tend to be interested in things like technology or computers can definitely find a career in healthcare. You just have to sort of follow your instinct. You don't know where that's going to lead you, you know, and being in a surgical, you know, procedure with robotics is just one of the many ways that you can be in healthcare and technology at the same time. Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of different people that are contributing to the robotic surgery program. It's not just all doctors, and you know, there's a huge team of people that participate in this team. And so, depending on your role, the training requirements are slightly different. In my case, I wanted to be a doctor. I went to med school, got trained as a surgeon, and then got into robotics sort of later on. But nowadays, most of the surgeons coming out of training are automatically exposed and trained in robotic surgery. So if you find yourself you know, in the healthcare field on the track to become a physician, which would include going to college and then going to medical school and then residency, you're probably going to get exposed to robotics along the way, and it might be something that you might want to focus on. But that being said, that's a long journey. You know, college 4 years, med school 4 years, and in my case, residency for another 6 years. So that's 14 years of school, you know, training after high school to get into the operating room with this thing. But there's a lot of other positions that are integral to the robotic surgery team that you know, get here for different, you know, with different pathways. We have surgical assists, we have nurses, circulating nurses, and also kind of scrub tech nurses that all play important roles in the actual surgery, plus anesthetists and the anesthesia doctors that are here in the room helping with the procedure. And those would all typically involve, you know, getting trained through having an advanced degree in something like either nursing or going to get certified as a scrub tech, and then being able to participate in the robotic surgery at the bedside, actually doing things with the patient, or in the operating room suite, assisting with the procedure. We'll talk a little bit about some of those just different positions later, but there's a lot of different folks contributing and working as a big team to do this type of procedure. So most people who are involved in the operating room enjoy being in an environment where there's kind of a critical need for stuff to happen in a very organized and tidy fashion. Folks, there's a lot of responsibility that goes into being on the robotics team. People tend to be responsible individuals who really take pride in being meticulous about the work that they do and paying attention to details. So the quality of a person's kind of work ethic is probably one of the more important things if you want to be successful in the operating room environment. And that goes for the nurses or the scrub techs or the anesthesia personnel, or even the support services that maintain and clean the robot and maintain the robotic equipment. You know, there's a lot of protocols and a lot of very specific rules that need to be followed in order to keep things running smoothly. And so you need to be well organized, you need to be responsible, and you need to pay attention to the details. Well, like I said, depending on the position, you're going to need advanced training in either nursing, for example, or circulators within the operating room require additional training after high school to become certified as a scrub tech. And physicians that want to go into surgery need to get special training after medical school and a surgical residency. So there's, depending on your role, after college, you're going to need to seek out those additional training opportunities to get into this arena. So say if you want to be a nurse in the operating room, then you'll need to get a degree from a nursing program and then get some experience as a scrub tech or a technician in the operating room. If you want to be at the bedside, that's additional training. So nursing is a great way to get into medicine. And, one of the best things about Mary Washington is we have awesome nurses. We're very proud of the nursing excellence programs we have at Mary Washington, and it's a super opportunity if you can become affiliated or get trained through Mary Washington as far as the mentorship programs and some of the nursing programs with Germana. It's a great environment to be trained for nursing because they're so fantastic here. So depending on your role in the robotics program, for example, an operating room nurse, depending on their experience level and their training, may make between $59,000 and $89,000 a year. A technician may make between $47,000 and $71,000, and an OR tech has multiple different roles, including a surgical technician, and the nurse anesthetist, who's the nurse anesthetist who manages the anesthesia for the patient during the surgical procedures, will make between $180,000 and $240,000 depending on their experience level. And surgeons, depending on their specialty, will make $200,000 and above. My pleasure.
Looks like, guys, I said, we're off to a great start. We really appreciate that perspective. What we can do now is I'm going to go ahead and transition to our next panelist, so we can just keep this moving right along then. So our next panelist will be Rachel from the Health Desk Services, and Katie from Career Development will actually be asking the questions now. Katie?
Rachel, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to have this conversation today. I got lots of questions for you. But per usual, what even brought you into this field? What attracted you to this career path?
Technology was very new when I got into it. Still, because there was DOS and AOL, so dial-up, and which a lot of young students don't know about dial-up and AOL and from way back when. But I was interested in it back then. I actually got into it because my older sister was in it, and I would look through her books and then try to figure out, what she was doing with programming, and took my first computer that my parents had bought me apart. Didn't know how to put it back together. I got in trouble and was like grounded until I could figure it out. It took me like 2 months. But from then on, I figured, I enjoyed it, and it was something I wanted to continue to do. So
that I love that origin story for you. And I feel like I hear that a lot with individuals in the tech field of, I took something apart, whether it's a toaster or a computer, or it always starts with dismantling something to see how it works. Mm-hmm. So can you go ahead and describe for me the career path, including a variety of different roles and what the advancement opportunities look like?
Yes. So starting with my group is Tier 1 and Tier 2. So that's the Service Desk Associate, Tech Ops Specialist, and then the Senior Tech Ops Specialist, and sysadmin level. So those would be like your Tier 1 and Tier 2 starting points. You then have the opportunity to get into applications, engineers, so network engineer, security analyst, database administrator, business analyst 2 or 3, and work your way up from starting with the service desk.
Okay. And so what are some relevant skills that'll be helpful for individuals in those positions?
Definitely having some soft skills, so customer service. So in a service desk role, you are on the phone a lot with people that call in. So we not only handle call-ins, but I have desktop support associates as well, and they're the frontline field people, so they go out to troubleshoot problems. So without customer service skills, I don't think you'll get far. Because sometimes, I mean, seriously, when you have a nurse or a doctor and they need to get, their work done and they're trying to see a patient, sometimes, they can be moving fast and they could be upset. And so knowing how to de-escalate situations and deal with people it's a number one skill that you need to have. But schooling, and that's not to say that it has to be just a degree, but certifications. The A+ certification's big. You have Security Plus if you're looking to get into security, CCNA for networking, or you can do CISSP, which normally comes after Security Plus or Network Plus, or MCS. Even there's a plethora of certifications out there, but definitely if you're not looking for going into like a 4-year degree or 2-year, definitely certifications.
And so for these certifications, what would you recommend would be like a starting point? If there's anywhere that they should kind of have as a starting point, what would you recommend?
So starting with the A+, most people start out with A+. It's easier versus jumping into a Security Plus, which means that you have some years of experience, security experience under your belt. Even in a Network Plus, they do recommend that you have at least 2 years of experience in a network build. Some people are really good at studying and are able to get the certifications just through studying, but being able to apply those when you go into looking for a job is a big plus. So it's great to have the certificate, but you also need the hands-on experience to go with it.
Okay, great. So what are some of the educational requirements?
So that would be a 2-year associate's degree or a bachelor's degree, or at least 3 years of experience. I know that a lot of times it's hard to gain the experience that you're looking for straight out of college, or even if you do obtain like your certification. But if you're able to land an internship somewhere, I think that's a great opportunity. Or even, if you're in school, look at your school and ask and see if they have any type of internship programs. It's great to get your foot in the door. And when you get your foot in the door, you might just land you an actual position.
It's all about that foot in the door. And so we've talked about a variety of positions with you. Can you go over some of the salary baselines with us?
Sure. So for the IS support analyst 1, which would be our help desk role, that salary ranges from about $50,000 a year to about $75,000 a year. If you're looking at a network analyst 2 role, that one's ranges from $56,000 to about $84,000 a year. And then for our system administrators, that's a little bit higher level, which is $68,000 to about $106,000. And then our security analyst 3, which is from $77,000 to about $116,000 a year.
Well, thank you for going over kind of like a glimpse of different roles. I know that there's so many different ones and just different paths that you could choose as well. So thank you for that little snapshot.
No problem. You're welcome. And I'll be the next person asking the questions. But before I do, I will say then, because we're career development, I just can't help but to say, Rachel, probably since I've been here, she has hired more students this semester. We have a number of students that are reaching out to her department in terms of opportunities to get that foot in the door. So an internship, I think her department is probably one of the strongest in terms of interns. So Rachel, thank you so much then for that support. It's pretty incredible. Thank you. And keep it up because we'll be looking for some more opportunities for this summer. I am happy to ask similar questions of Ethel. So Ethel, I will begin with you then. I would like to know what attracted you to the career path. And since I have the good fortune to be able to work with you as well in career development, it is neat to know that you're a nurse, but then you have that really odd technical side to you. How on earth did that come to be? Are you talking, Ethel? There you are. Okay,
I just had to unmute myself, so here I am.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I wanted everyone to understand really what healthcare informatics is. As high school students, we will be looking at trying to grasp that, and it's really a marriage between technology and also with a combination of clinical science. So it's understanding that. So my background really comes from nursing. I've always wanted to be a nurse and got into nursing first, that is as a med surg, as a critical care, as a neuro nurse, and then I decided that I was going to be doing computer science, which I did. And so I have a bachelor's in computer science and decided I would go back and finish up my nursing by doing my master's in nursing informatics. So that marriage between computer science and nursing is basically what I've done. Understanding also that within informatics, you have a clinical informatics and the applied. I'd say the applied portion is the portion of being the nurse, and the clinical portion is being the nurse, and the applied was actually the computer science marrying together. So that's basically what made me go into nursing informatics. That is the combination of both. So you may say, why is it important to do nursing informatics? And I'd say really mirroring that information to the workforce, meaning the community, you can then utilize the technological part of everything to via the electronic medical record, which is where we have the electronic chart. And that way we are able to bring the patient's information electronically across the board. So technology, again, marries the patient care. Does that answer your question?
Ethel, I'm just blown away as usual, but yes, it does. Yes, it does. What a neat way to describe it, where you really are blending those two key areas together, and what an impact it makes here within the healthcare system. So it's pretty incredible. So I'm trying to think like my students. Okay, so we have high school students and we have college students. What if they also are trying to figure out, well, how can I do that? What types of career paths are available if I decide to blend healthcare and electronics together? What types of roles would that look like, and what advancement opportunities could there be if I blend those two together? So will you speak a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. As a principal trainer here at Mary Washington, I do the training. I prepare the training for the different roles that come into Mary Wash. We can, like I said, the end user is the one who really utilizes that electronic healthcare record or electronic medical record. And the end users are the nursing assistants, the CNAs, the patient safety attendants, the mental health techs, the registered nurse, and as Dr. Slick mentioned before, registered nurses can go into that robotics field. And you also have the technical people, as Rachel mentioned, who help to support us, that is help supporting the nursing assistants who are the end users. So that underlying electronic medical record is being utilized not just within Mary Washington itself for patient care, but it's also being utilized by the end users who are making sure that this information comes forth. You may ask, so how do I, or why should I become a nursing assistant? A nursing assistant straight out of high school. You can actually come right into the nursing assistant field. You really only need to have a high school diploma or a GED. A CNA, you would be coming in with a certification as a CNA, again, right out of high school, jumping right into the CNA field. Patient safety attendant, you don't even need to have the certification. You can come in with the high school diploma. Mental health tech, the same thing. Coming in as a registered nurse, of course, you will need to be licensed. So these roles are, again, they're utilizing the electronic medical record, which is the core of the healthcare informatics. And that's how you would be able to incorporate and jump right in.
Okay. Did you want to talk a little bit, Katie, will you change the slide? Did you want to talk for a second about a particular career path as it relates to the trainer, Ethel?
Oh, sure. As a trainer, we do ask that you come in with high school minimum, high school diploma, and some college, at least an associate level college degree. Coming in with the skill set of not just the academic portion of it, but also the flexibility, and coming in also with the attention to detail. And you would be coming in as a training coordinator, or you can come in as a credential trainer or an instructional trainer. After that level, then you'd be coming up to the level where I am, which is a instructional designer or a principal trainer. So the entry level, like I said, is really high school, some associate degree, some associate, and the skill sets of having the right attitude and communicating verbally as well as written, and also having the just having those basic skill sets.
All right, thank you. That you know you are. You're knocking it out the park. You know you are. So Ethel, do you just absolutely love this type of work? You know,
I do. I think it's very interesting. I do train the nursing students. We get a whole slew of nursing students. Thank you, guys. We also get a lot of nursing assistants, and the challenge is really coordinating to make sure that the receivers are comfortable with what they are doing and how they are doing it. That is for the nursing assistants, the student nurses, and also the registered nurses who come through. So that's one of the reasons why I started out with making sure that one understands what healthcare informatics is. So it is a joy. It brings me joy to see when people do understand and they express their understanding, and that level of excitement comes from them too.
Thank you. Thank you. So since we are working with high school students, you know, in terms of some of our programs, observations and internships and experiential learning, you had mentioned in another call that you and I had, you mentioned maybe some of the classes, you know, for the students at the high school level. What classes do you think that they really need to excel in?
I would definitely say English. Understand English, meaning English comprehension. If you're not able to understand the math questions, math is another subject. If you're not able to understand the math problem or understand the scientific problem that is being presented or the scenario, then you are at a loss. So definitely strength in English, math, some sort of science, some applied sciences, either biology, chemistry, or something of that's in the scientific field, which will allow for you to think logically and also apply a discipline. So, but the core, I would say, yes, is English and then math and some sort of science.
Okay. All right. So I can imagine my students are probably thinking, okay, so what types of salaries, what type of money can I make? And, how do I sustain myself? What can I do? So let's skip over then to the salaries. Can you give us an idea, Ethel, of what some of the salaries are for some key roles? I just put for EPIC for in your area, please.
Oh, absolutely. I'd say the credential trainer, which is credential trainer usually comes as a nurse, but you do not necessarily need to be a nurse. It's definitely advantageous if you are, because then you're coming in with that clinical background, that understanding of the clinical field. The credential trainer starts at 57 to 86K. And then the principal trainer, myself, you would be coming in at 65 through to 101K. Whereas a business analyst, which I didn't really mention, but a business analyst is someone who is building or putting together the software, that's the electronic medical records software, and they're coming in at 45 to 68K. The manager, which is what I'm striving for, is starting at 99 and going to 154. So you can get an idea as far as what within the salaries within the EPIC, which is really the electronic medical record that I was referring to, what the salary ranges are.
It looks like incredible salary opportunities for all three areas. As I said, I'm so glad that my students can get a sense of what these fields are and then the types of salaries that they can make as they continue to grow. So I appreciate that so much, Ethel. I can listen to you all day long. But we are going to listen to some of our students through Katie's voice, actually. Katie has been manning the chat since we started. So Katie, I wonder what types of questions are out there for our wonderful panelists. And do we have anything in the chat? And will you present?
Of course we do.
Of course we do, Katie, because it's
curious bees. They're always up to something.
Yes.
So the first one is for Dr. Schlick. So they're worried about cost of medical school and balancing that. So their question is, would community college, and I'm assuming for the first 2 years of their bachelor's, affect my chances of getting into med school? It's a factor of saving money so that they can make that balance happen. I'm not sure if you have, I know you're not on the admissions board, but if you have any insight for that.
Right, that's a great question. And it's something that our nation as a whole is struggling with. A lot of physicians come out of medical school with huge amounts of debt, and they're really held on the line for that. And that's not changed much, although the current administration is trying to make it easier to sort of forgive some of those big loans for people going into certain types of healthcare that are in real need. I would say that no, you're not really diminishing your chances of getting into good medical school by going to a community or college for the first couple of years, and then striving to get good grades and get yourself into a university and applying for medical school. Medical school is super competitive, but it's really the good grades and a well-rounded person that has good extracurricular activities and credits in there as part of the application that matters. There's a lot of different ways, though, to go into medicine nowadays, though, and being a doctor going for a traditional MD medical degree isn't the only way to do it. We've got a number of surgeons that have gotten their degree in osteopathy, so DO, and those schools, because there's now 2 routes to get into medicine, either getting an MD or going to get a DO. It's not quite as competitive if you kind of broaden your options a little bit in that respect. And so I would encourage people not only to think about, getting an MD, but also whether they might want to get a DO. And that can allow you to go into all the same fields and residencies as it does to get a medical degree. So just different routes, still competitive, but another option. So don't cut yourself out, just on that alone.
Okay, great. And there's actually there's a follow-up question for that too now. So if an individual is going to a four-year college, they're wondering what, in your opinion, is the best undergrad major to choose, because there's biochem, there's biology, there's health sciences, there's a lot of different options.
Doesn't matter.
Make a recommendation.
It's helpful to get your prerequisites from med school. There's certain prerequisites that they'll ask you to do. But honestly, I had folks in my medical school class who came from all different backgrounds, doing all sorts of different stuff. Med schools are kind of funny like that. They don't always just, they don't want a kind of a cookie cutter type class where you've got all of your students are all biology majors and they all do the same thing. They want to see people that come from different walks of life that maybe did something else. Some people are choosing medicine as a second career. And they used to be, an engineer or something like that, and they decide they go into medicine for a different reason. So, if you can put together a convincing application, as long as you're well-rounded and have got some of the basics down, you've taken some of those science classes and can demonstrate that you can handle the material and manage the workload, then I think the colleges or the medical schools will give you a consideration. So it doesn't always have to be biology. It's good to take those classes to figure out if you like it or not. You don't want to end up in medical school and be like, wow, I really don't like biology. Bad choice. So
late. An expensive decision.
Right. So there are some prerequisites that we generally take, but you don't have to go in a certain major. I was a neuroscience major, with the brain and psychology, and I just love neuroanatomy and stuff like that. And I thought maybe I might want to be a neurosurgeon. And then I went and hung out with a neurosurgeon for a weekend, and I was like, this guy's miserable. He works way too hard. He's not having any fun. I didn't want to end up doing that. So.
Thank you for that candid response. We appreciate it. I'm sure the student does too. The next question is for Ethel. So they're wondering, because you said you're a nurse, do you still get a chance to go on the floor? Is that an option? Or when you choose to go into informatics, does it kind of cut that part off?
Oh, it's definitely an option. You can always be a nurse. Once a nurse, always a nurse, regardless of whatever else you do. And doing nursing informatics just put the icing on the cake. That's all it did. You still are a bedside nurse. And I have not been at the bedside over the past 4 years that I've been in the nursing informatics field, but the option is still there. Now that we have the COVID clinic and we have so many other opportunities to volunteer at the hospital. Yeah. So always a nurse. Once a nurse, always a nurse.
Great. Okay, Rachel. Don't even do round robin. Rachel, this question is for you. So, it was kind of a funny one. They're wondering essentially what the most ridiculous call that you've gotten is, since you do work the help desk, you do work customer service. I'm paraphrasing, but what is the most silly thing that you help people with? And it could also just be what is the most typical regular silly thing that you help out?
I'm kind of interested in this too.
I'm waiting, Rachel. Come on, Rachel.
So there are several things that we get. The most common one is the computer won't turn on, but they haven't pushed the power button, or the computer's on and the monitor's actually turned off, but people don't know the difference between the monitor and the actual PC. So they say, oh, it's not working, and they just haven't turned it on. We also have iPhones, and they're like, oh, it's not working. And we're like, did you turn that on too? So it's typically the calls that we get.
I enjoy that. I was so nervous to ask it too. I was like, okay, let's figure out how to phrase this. Okay, and then, sorry, there's like a couple repeat. Okay. Ethel, what has been the most rewarding part of your field?
I would say the response that I get from the nurses and also more so from the student nurses. I think that the student nurses are far more energetic with their response of an excitement about what is in EPIC. EPIC being the electronic medical record that links the patient's chart to the electronic world. So yeah, the response that they get, like they would come out and they would say, I didn't know EPIC could do all that. Oh, this is great. I want to come and work here. So that's kind of exciting. It's great to hear that, knowing that we have delivered effectively and they are responsive towards it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, Dr. Schlick, what are some of the coolest, in your opinion, I guess, surgeries that you've performed with the robots?
I do some cancer surgeries with the robot, and some of the surgeries that I used to do would require that the patient get blood transfusions because there was so much blood loss, and they'd have to stay in the hospital for 3 or 4 days. And so being able to do those big surgeries on the inside through tiny little incisions is pretty cool. And it saves a lot of the post-operative discomfort for those patients. They can get home sooner. We don't lose as much blood. So doing those cancer surgeries is kind of one of my favorite things to do because we can do some pretty complex stuff. I'm actually in the operating room right now. This is actually the robot, the Da Vinci robot here. And this is the surgeon's console here where the surgeon sits to control the robot back there. And so, as you can see, there's, probably 10 or 12 feet distance between the console and the robot. And so it's kind of interesting to do surgery over there and have the robot doing the work over there. And you're not anywhere near, you can't, you're away from the action, but yet you're doing it. So it's kind of neat.
That is pretty neat. Yeah, I love science is just really cool. So Rachel, what is some advice that you would give to somebody? I'm sorry, I can rephrase that a little bit. Man, you can tell us the other day. What is the advice that you would give somebody who's looking to progress towards either your position or within your field?
Determine what it is you want to do first. The reason I say that is because initially I started out thinking that I wanted to do database administration. I then got a job as a database administrator. And then while I was working on my degree, I was like, I do not like this. I already started my degree. So paid for classes, ended up switching. Then I was like, I want to do programming. I really like programming and designing. I started doing that and then coding, and then realized like once you mess up a small piece of code somewhere out of this long sheet of code, you then have to go back and figure it out before now they have tools and stuff that can pinpoint which code is messed up for you to fix. It's a long time ago. And then spent money on those classes and then decided, you know what, I think I might want to try networking. So I went from database administration to programming to actually getting my bachelor's in networking. And so my MBA, I have an MBA in management information systems, but it is to figure out what it is you want to do. If you're able to find someone or an organization or something that you're able to, shadow or train in a different area and figure out what you want to do beforehand, wanted to save you a lot of money along the way. I know, and it does help. So that's the best advice I can give. And again, like I said, interning is definitely helpful. It always gets your foot in the door.
Can I add a little comment there? because there's a common thread to the stories that you're hearing, from all of us, from Rachel and Ethel and I. We all sort of got into informatics in a sort of a roundabout way. We didn't start off saying, okay, I want to be a robotic surgeon, because it didn't even exist when I started. But we all went ahead and got some type of advanced degree, right? We all went and got a degree in something, and then found a way to work our passion for informatics into what we do. So I think the moral of the story is it's going to take some trial and error, and where you end up may not be where you think you're going to when you start. But if you pay attention to whether you're enjoying something or not enjoying something, just like Rachel did, don't be scared to change. Be brave enough to follow your heart and your instinct while you're still pursuing that degree in some fashion. If you're able to go and get that degree, be passionate about it, but also be brave, and don't be afraid to change along the way if you feel like there's something that inspires you. Ethel is really making a huge impact with her degree as a nurse, and it just makes her so much of a better informaticist having that nursing degree behind her, because she knows what it's like being a nurse when she designs something, so she can build it or train or teach the right way so that the people who are going to be using it, benefit from it. And so, just understand, be brave. If you're not going to make you can't know where you're going to go right from the beginning. You have to sort of figure it out along the way. And everybody does that. That's everybody's story. So don't be afraid to change.
Wonderful. So Katie, in the essence of time, I will probably, I'm going to ask one last question, or maybe it's going to be two last questions. I'm looking at the time. I want to ask Rachel one particular question that I think would be an important question that students are probably thinking about. And then I'll leave some, give us some advice from also Ethel and Dr. Slick as well. But Rachel, I'm teasing you, and of course you keep mentioning, this is some time ago, this is a long time ago. So my question would be then, I'm thinking of all the girls, all the young women, all the women, so here you are, this trailblazer that whatever year that was, whatever time frame that was. So I can just imagine that, maybe girls going into this field, you named networking and computer science and all of this technology. How did that feel to be a young girl or woman out there trying to pursue this field that it's typically, at least then, it wasn't for girls, it wasn't for women. How did that feel? Anything that you can share with that?
It was my drive. That's it really was, because I can tell you the first class that I took in IT, I was the only female. A lot of times being in IT, I was the only female. I tell you, when I came from Northern Virginia Community College at the Woodbridge campus, I was the IT manager there before I came here. And my team was all guys. And I worked with them, and even being on the team, all guys. The other managers, the other IT managers, all guys.
There's a pattern.
Seem to be outnumbered, but I tell you that that has been a big driving factor for me, is knowing that I wanted to be a manager, and I wanted to be up there where I saw, when I started out, in the field, I saw a whole bunch of guys as managers, and I'm like, I'm going to change this. And I did, and so I want to say you can do it too. And the world is changing. You see, now there's women sitting in fields, not just in IT, but all around the world, where women are now taking, positions, in higher leadership roles that, you wouldn't have seen several years ago. So don't get discouraged. Let that be your driving source.
Thank you. And I'll tell you now, in the essence of time, and I certainly appreciate that perspective. What I'd like to do then, I'm going to ask for Dr. Slake and also for Ethel. So if we're going to kind of leave this question, but please be brief. can you just give this last bit of advice? You know, what would you tell the students if they want to go into your field? You would need to do this. Okay, so if you could just kind of end that statement, I'll start with you, then Ethel, and then I'll ask you to wrap it up. Then Dr. Slick. Ethel, if you wanted, if a young person wanted to go into your field, they would need to do.
If they want to go into this field, they would actually need to understand that they need to be flexible. They need to have the right attitude, and they also need to have the minimum, I would say, an associate degree.
Okay, and Dr. Slick, if my students wanted to go into your field, they need to do this. What would this be?
Yeah, you need to work on, if you want to be a robotic surgeon, you have to work on getting into a good college and do really well and get into a good medical school. And then find your way into a surgical specialty. Robotics is being used in a lot of different types of surgical specialties. And so you'd have your choice by the time you got through that program. But remember, there are a lot of different ways to get into robotics or robotic surgery and not just through medical school. I would say persist, be passionate about what you do, study hard, and find your way. If you want to do it, there's a way. So just work hard and be persistent.
Okay, that's wonderful advice then. You know, so students, you just can't beat this particular presentation. When you look at the influence of technology within healthcare, it is enormous. I'm so glad that you tuned in to hear our panelists today. So first, let me thank our panelists. Okay, so Ethel and Rachel and Dr. Slick, we certainly appreciate your time. It is great working with you all. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank my team. Thank you, Katie. Thank you, Jasmine, for being a part of this tonight. And then students, you know how this works. It's not over yet. We have one more thing. So Katie, if you'll advance the slide. Students, we would like for you to definitely be a part of our Kahoot game. So before I tell you about that, then just remember, we always have positions available at Mary Washington Healthcare. So depending on where you are in your academic career, there are some starter positions that are in demand probably anytime, all the time. So please check out our website. The website is there on your screen. Take a couple of minutes, if you will. Please give us some feedback about our program. You know, if you want to make any comments about our wonderful participants for tonight's program, you know, just use that code right there. You know, use technology and, you know, kind of zoom in. You can go ahead and give us that feedback. We would love that. And then lastly, if you would, the Kahoot number is there on the screen, 0826-8540. If you will take a couple of minutes and compete, and if you win, or we'll look at the top 3 winners, but if you win, we have some incredible prizes for you that we are more than happy to give away. So with that, thank you everybody for participating. I'll leave that on the screen and we'll see you next month. Thank you. Bye everybody. Thank you. Okay, so